If you work for the Catholic Church and want to avoid burnout, overcome team dysfunctions, and put more souls in the pews, we're here to help. I'm Ty Hua, here with my co-host John Kahns, and we're providing leadership development for Catholic ministry professionals. Every week, you can expect engaging discussions, expert interviews, and actionable advice to help you move Jesus' mission forward in your parish. Now, today, we're having a conversation with a real live Catholic ministry professional, Hector Bautista. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me on, guys. This is awesome.
We're excited. Hey, in case you were wondering in that intro, which one of those three categories you fall into, you're the expert interview. So no pressure there.
I thought it was the Catholic, but I'm just filling it out. So
well, we're hoping you fit that one too. Well, that's great. Thanks for being on here. We appreciate it. What we always like to do is just kind of get out of the way from the beginning of the podcast and just let you tell the people a little about yourself. Our listeners are going to want to know, who is Hector Bautista?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am Hector Bautista from Las Vegas, Nevada. My mom is from England. My dad is from Mexico. How'd they meet? That's what everyone asks. Las Vegas, it's a place of wonders and curiosity. They met, I don't really know where, to be honest. I've never really asked, but they met there. And they had me. The Lord has blessed them with a baby, and I was here. I had a good conversion when I was about 16 years old. There was this guy, he was a pope. His name was John Paul. He was the second one. He wasn't the first one. And he died April 2nd, 2005. And I remember thinking, man, I am just like living in this life of just sin, doing things I want to do. There's more. I don't know what that is, but I want to seek after it. And found myself just like searching for the Lord, giving the Lord a chance. And he continued to just provide and pour grace into my life. Went on to do net ministries for a couple of years after high school. Was a youth minister for a few years in Las Vegas. Went on to do 2 more years of net ministries as a team supervisor with them. Then worked as a youth minister in St. Ambrose in Woodbury, Minnesota for I think 4.5 years, almost 5 years. Then went and worked in the Diocese of Las Vegas for 3 years, I think it was. And now I'm here in the Diocese of Sioux Falls as the Director of Mission Engagement. And essentially what that is I travel around the Diocese of Sioux Falls and I connect with lots of people who just have a heart for ministry, have a heart for the Lord, want to get involved, want to do things. I listen to people, try to get them connected with other people that are looking for those same things. So it's a great job. I found myself thinking recently what it would look like if every church had somebody who was a director of mission engagement for their parish, who could go out and meet with parishioners, take them out for coffee or just go eat dinner with them or something like that, and hear what the Lord's doing in their life and see how, what their passions, what the Lord is doing in their life and how to get them more integrated in their parish. So that's what I do. That's who I am. I'm married. I have a beautiful wife. Her name is Nikayla. She is a wedding photographer. She is super stellar. She is the most artistic person I've ever met. She sings, she plays piano, as well as like 3 other instruments. She can paint. She, again, is a wedding photographer, is killer at it. Nikayla & Co. is her business, if you want to check that out for boredom. And then we have 2 girls, Avila and Sienna, and they both know how to do arm bars because I'm a martial arts guy. So there's that.
All right. So, well, okay, when we saw your last name, of course, everybody thinks of, is it Dave Bautista?
Yeah, that wrestler.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's where our minds went. It's good to know that you're kind of living up to the name there a little bit with the martial arts.
Dave has nothing on me. I could take him. All right.
Yeah, we're gonna clip that right there and send it to him.
John.
Dave literally guards the galaxy.
Yeah.
He does a good job with it too. I heard that in their the coffee, that there should be somebody who's just on the parish staff. Their main job is just to take out parishioners for coffee and to see where their interests, their passions, the call on their life meets up with the needs of their community. And that really stuck out to me when I first reached out to you, that you kind of sold it as like, I kind of gather stories and I just try to connect people. And I love that. In my mind, that's something that a lot of our priests should be more free to do. And, if we could build in more like solid, like experts, Catholic ministry professionals functioning at a high level, really looking at their jobs and seeking to excel at it, they can relieve a lot of the pressure on the pastor, and he can do that with a little more freedom. And I mean, who doesn't want to drink more coffee? I think that would be easy sell for our pastors. But one of the things that as we've gone into this ministry is to address kind of what you're after here, which is kind of find those points where people need to be connected, and where we really want to connect with people is that pain point. Where are you frustrated in your work? And how do you see, Catholic ministry professionals getting frustrated in the work? Because as you're connecting people, I imagine you sometimes see where, well, your frustration actually meets well with this solution or this person. What are some of those areas where you see that lining up?
Yeah. So, I don't know if I'll speak straight from my experience here in Sioux Falls, but I will say, like, just my overall experience in ministry and the places I've been in. I think I was able to bring this down to three different, ideas right off the top, right? You have classic parish politics, right? We're fallen human beings and we sin. And when people decide to get together and gossip and other people are excluded and don't feel like they're making any difference or supported by people, it just gets weird, So breaking that down would be really helpful for people. Burnout is a huge one, right? Burnout, and that's even in the regular workforce too, outside of the church. Just like people get burnout doing so many things and feel like they're not really using their best gifts and talents. So burnout's a big deal. Lack of leadership is something I've seen a lot of professionals in the Catholic world. They don't have a clear vision. They don't know where they're going. So they struggle a lot. I think there's probably a lot more. I would probably say the biggest area of frustration for people is because they have stopped praying, because prayer has become part of their job. And, when I'm so busy giving a talk about Jesus, I forget to talk to him, or I forget to listen to him. And that's where a lot of this frustration will come from. You forget that the Lord is the one who called you into this ministry. You forget that the Lord wants to give you peace and excitement and joy about this. And instead you're letting, the evil one and this frustration about work get into your mind. And I think that's where a lot of people get frustrated the most.
Yeah, definitely. And then they don't realize that the solution to that is one, to like pick up your habit of prayer and to do it intently, but then to pray at that thing that is frustrating, right? To really trust God with it. That in a lot of ways, that's the solution, is really to bring that thing into prayer so that God can transform it. And then to really consider how you can have like real practical conversations about it, to work past the frustrations, to work through them, to work over them. Have you found any solutions? I mean, what's been your experience as you've worked alongside people, things that have really helped them to work past those?
Solutions is to help people start praying again, or solutions is to like breaking parish politics, or
all the above.
Yeah, we had a really awesome pastor when I was in St. Ambrose, and one of the things he would do, he just started taking us on retreat together as a staff. And of course, you're going to have people that are frustrated and want to do their own things or whatever. But we started bringing it back to what we all were about for anyway. We were all here for Jesus. We were all about saving souls, leading people to Christ, all that stuff. Yeah. And when you have somebody like him who is like, no, this is the goal. This is what we're about. And reminding people that ultimately the Lord is more concerned with what he's doing in you than through you, and having them remember that they are still a child in his eyes, and they can't earn his love. And they start remembering those things, then they become more free to do their ministry. They feel like they're doing their Father's work rather than doing a job for 40 hours a week or 20 hours a week or whatever it is. So it's just reminding them of that, like, hey, you were called into this, like, live that. Unless he's calling you out of it, like, remember what he called you for, and speaking into that, but not doing it as a general, like, hey, everybody, God loves you, but like very specific, intentional, like, you have experience, you have this gift of this or that, like, use those gifts and use them well, because people are depending on you to share the gospel with them in a way that only you can. I'm never going to share the gospel with people in Worthington, but somebody else will. So Worthington is a town in Minnesota. It has a big lake. It's called I forgot what it's called. OK Beans or something.
Okay, Beans.
Close enough.
Watch your tongue, sir. Watch your tongue. No, as you're talking, the entire deal of like burnout and frustration, like that's why we have this podcast. It's literally why John had it in his heart to start this podcast, because he knows the frustration of working within this ministry of fallen Catholics, sinners, and just people who want to do well, but they're not being led. And people who aren't led tend to stray, right? There's no coincidence that part of the whole gospel and talking about Jesus is, the lost sheep. We're all lost sheep. But when you're talking about a structure and working within a structure and there's nobody to lead us, you tend to find your own way. And our own way never works. Literally never works, right? So Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. So while working through that ministry, whether it's in Woodbury or within the Diocese of Las Vegas, I don't know if it's the Diocese of Las Vegas, but nobody likes them anyways. Have you found any tools that has worked for you? And if you do, what's your favorite one?
Yeah, this is okay. So this is probably something I was really excited about when you guys called me up and asked me to interview me. There's so many tools out there. Okay, so let's just say Canva, because I know I've watched all the other podcasts that you guys have been on, and everybody wants to say Canva, right? Canva. But I would start off right from the top. You want to avoid burnout. You want to keep your staff. You want to have people who are doing ministry effectively. Get them a mentor. Or go seek out a mentor for yourself. It's okay to say, hey, I don't know everything. I have a mentor, Bill Dill in the Archdiocese of St. Paul, Minneapolis. He helps me out all the time. I call him all the time for questions. So get a mentor for yourself, rely on them, schedule out a meeting once every 2 months or once every month or something like that. Second, I would say get a support and prayer team. So this is a resource that you can get yourself. Like, you don't have to pay a subscription. You have people in your network. Get somebody, 5 people that will pray specifically for your ministry, and be vulnerable with them. You don't need to gossip and overshare about how your boss is mean to you and all these other things. But yeah, have somebody who is intentionally praying for you that you can share things with. For youth ministry, I really loved YDisciple and Lifeteen. They do a good job. For relational ministry as a whole, I like the Pathway of Discipleship. That's a resource that's really solid to help see where people are at, so you can speak to, as they're progressing along. You like meetings and stuff like that. I think Calendly is an awesome thing. Notion for team communications. I'm a big fan of Notion. We use Notion in our office. We also use Patrick Lencioni and the whole style of meetings that he does, which has been really good. There's a ton of good resources. It's just about actually putting them to use, right? So.
Yeah, I really appreciate that too, because it's not what you said wasn't a one size fits all sort of thing. It's like, here's a bunch of them, depending on what you're trying to do, which also assumes that you have an idea what you're trying to do. You have a vision in front of you. You're either being led or you are stepping into some form of leadership, right? Following God as he leads you, and you seek to lead people towards him. I mean, a lot of that assumes that you've taken some time to really discern what are your gifts, where am I taking people? But the other side of that is mentors as an answer. That's one side. Anybody can find a mentor. You just reach out, shoot them an email, send 5 emails before the end of the day today. And you're probably going to find somebody that's willing to work with you and kind of guide you and lead you, at least answer some of those questions. Same with prayer groups. Your mom, text your mom. Number one right there. You got someone that's just going to go to war for you. I love that. That's great advice. I appreciate that. So when we talk about this too, obviously ministry is overall, it's mainly a spiritual work, right? God is doing a thing, and we are lucky to be able to be alongside him in the vineyard, co-creators, right? Doing that work. But there's also a practical side that he does expect fruit. He seems to make that very clear in the Gospels. And so how do you balance that spiritual side of ministry with the practical side of ministry, kind of that it's not about the numbers, but also it's a little bit about the numbers. How do you balance that out?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what your ministry is, right? I think it depends on what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish, and who you're trying to accomplish it for. I mean, and what you have available to you, your resources. It's hard everywhere. I think like, yeah, it's so hard because the church is so big, and to like hammer it down. Damascus out in Ohio has hundreds of young people come to their camps every summer, and missionaries and all these other things, and it's phenomenal. And then there's other camps in the country that don't even top 50. And like, are they being fruitful? Are they meeting the needs? I don't know. I don't know what the Lord is asking of them. There's this common like thing some of us youth ministers used to say back in the day. It was like, I would rather have like 5 kids who have a daily prayer life than 50 kids who just come to play games, right? I'd rather have 5 people who actually want to grow in relationship with the Lord than just 5 people who are coming because they have nothing else to do on a Wednesday night. And for me, that's success. Yeah, and you just take it from Jesus. I mean, he had 12 disciples. He could have called 144 people all together at the same time and done ministry with them all. But he had 12 people that he walked with closely. And I think just taking that model and applying it to whatever you're doing, right? I think that's key. If people are taking that to heart, then I think that's how you know you're fruitful. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate that.
Yep. So there's this idea, like, and you mentioned, there's Damascus, and I think you wanted to say Adrian, Minnesota, probably not doing as well in those
Where's that?
camps. Who knows? Just kidding. I love Adrian. There's a lot of people I know in Adrian, so I'm not slighting them. But when you're thinking of some place that is doing really well in ministry, what's the first place that pops into your mind? This is your chance to brag on them a little bit. Could be your church ministry you follow or elsewhere. Like, who's doing it really well that you just gotta give them a shout out?
Yeah, there's a lot of people. I realize there's a lot of people. Right off the top, right, St. Ambrose in Woodbury is crushing it. I think they've sent over 280 men on a men's retreat in the last 2 years. It's a church.
Wow.
They sent 280 men to go on a retreat, a silent retreat. That doesn't happen, right? They had booked out their own middle school camp, Extreme Faith Camp in Minnesota, and sent 300 kids themselves to go experience the Lord in a very real way. Middle school students. That doesn't happen, They're crushing it. You look across Focus. I wasn't a Focus missionary myself, but I'm seeing the fruit of what they've done, especially now that I'm here in this diocese. Focus is crushing it, and they're doing a really, really good job. I just talked to this kid named Sam. He's a USD student, missionary, and he has like 30 young guys that he's doing Bible studies with. Those are the people that he's called to be with right now. And he's doing it. And I just think that's beautiful that there's conversion and grace and all this stuff that's out there right now. In this diocese, I mean, I don't want to sound like a kiss up, but like, my boss is one of the best I've ever seen at ministry. His name is Father Scott Trainer. Killer, unbelievable. I mean, he does this thing called School of Missionary Discipleship, and people around the country sign up for it and grow in prayer. People don't do that. This place is insane. Since moving to this diocese, I have been moved by how people continue to give of themselves. Here's another, like the priests. Okay, I'm gonna keep going on this one. Father Christopher Cowles literally learned how to speak Spanish by going to people's houses, eating dinner with them, because he wanted to be able to evangelize to them. A priest decided to learn a whole nother language, and he did it by eating dinner with these people that were not of his kind. That's insane, Yeah, I could go on, man. Especially because I know so many people. It's really easy for me to go on, but this diocese crushes it.
There is something special going on in the Diocese of Sioux Falls, and
So good.
I love Father Christopher Cowles. I know him from my time in the diocese, and you got to have him show you his chainmail. Like, the guy, I don't know how he finds the time. The guy's got so many hobbies, and he just like goes full tilt into everything he's doing, and just kills it at ministry. He's one of those saints. You just meet him, you know he's a saint walking in our midst.
Yeah, that's cool.
Speaking of saints, I watched, Hector, your interview with the Diocese of Sioux Falls' radio podcast show.
Sure.
And there was a line that somebody had told you that was essentially, and I'm going to paraphrase, I don't know if I'm going to say it exactly the way that you said it, but it was like, if you wanted to become a saint, move to Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
And I couldn't agree with you more, because when I moved here, John had already left. So I could not agree more.
It was easy at that point.
It was so easy. It was.
Get those stumbling blocks out of the way and block heads.
You know, it's funny. Every time I share that, people are always like offended, and I'm like, I don't understand why you guys are offended. Like, it shouldn't be me who tells you how beautiful this place is. Like, you should just open your eyes and see it. And yeah, it's crazy. But that it was, and I know you guys know what I'm saying. But yeah, it's so good.
I think. So real quick, John, I think what's happening there, Hector, is people are experiencing burnout, or they just don't understand the beauty of it because they're so close to it. Right. So when you say those things, and in their mind they've ran through it 100 times, like, man, there's something wrong with the diocese. I wish we could do this. I wish this was better. I wish we had a ministry for this. I feel so blah, I feel so blank about this, but they don't realize how good they actually have it. So when you say, you want to become a saint, move to Sioux Falls, they're like, I've been here for 10, 15, 30, 40 years, and I don't think so. We love to poke fun at the Ethels of the parishes, but I think that's what you're running into when you face that type of adversity.
Yeah. Yeah, I think all you got to do is go to daily mass, and then you'll see the fact that almost every daily mass has like 100-something people. That's crazy.
And there's something to that question too. Why does that bother you? I think that's a really underrated ministry tool, is just that one question. Why does this bother you? Like, we're really pursuing Christ. I see saints being built up in our midst. I see the Holy Spirit moving. Why would that bother you? And the answer to that question is kind of the key to unlocking sometimes that next threshold of conversion, that next step that God is calling them deeper. Like, there is something real there that they, like Jacob, they need to wrestle with this. And on the other side of that answer, on the other side of that question, there's a tighter relationship with God. And so to really kind of lean into that with people, I love that you're doing that up there. You're doing great work.
I don't know. I'm trying. I don't know if I am yet. I really don't.
Your false humility is terrible. Just accept the compliment.
Well, I mean, I am really humble. That's a fair point. I am really humble. But I also just don't know if I'm doing a great job. I'm trying my best.
Well, we're going to have your boss on here down the road. We'll ask him.
Okay, yeah, let me know.
All right. So if you had the attention of the whole world for 90 seconds, what would you say?
Could I change that question really quick? Would you hate me for that?
It's your interview.
You can change it. Yes, we will hate you.
All right, cool. If I had the attention of a parish catechetical leader for 90 seconds, I would say lead a life that is attractive. Okay. You want to avoid burnout? Stop working over 40 hours a week regularly. Go live your vocation. Okay. Enter back into your prayer life. That is one of the best ways you can evangelize to other people, is by having a life that is attractive to others, where people see that you're a normal human being, that you have hobbies and interests, that you have your own prayer life, that you engage your family, and that your kids aren't questioning why you have to miss their sports game because you have to go do another youth ministry or religious ed event. Lead a life that's attractive. And if you're saying, well, nobody's going to step up and nobody else can do this, then empower people. Stop waiting on the sidelines for people to call people on to holiness. Invite them into ministry. If you're in there, Jesus has called you into ministry. He's pushing you forward. Now push other people forward.
Amen.
That's great. I don't even know how to follow up on that, because there's a lot of people that just commenting on that little blurb that you just said. I think right off the top of my head, there's about 5 people that I could offend. Because they do everything within ministry.
Too, man. I don't mean to be offensive. I mean to be loving, But I take
in a challenging way.
That Jesus was pretty offensive too. So.
Well, and I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in, right, the pastor's the pastor, and if you've got a good employee, you're going to ask him to do something else, right? And I think there's something natural to that. And if you are in ministry, you have that heart for ministry. You also probably have a heart for saying like, yes, if it'll help my people, yes, I'll do it. But if we keep saying yes and we never learn how to say no, you end up passing on. And even like if this person leaves this ministry position, now they've built it up into this massive thing that nobody else wants to step into and take on. And so the next person has to have those conversations of like, here's the professional boundary here. This is where the line has to stop, because I'm missing my kids' bedtime. I'm missing my kids' sports. I'm starting to resent my work. And it's because I'm being asked to prioritize work above my family. But it's a really practical conversation, but it is hard to take a step back and say, this is where it has to be. This is where the line has to be.
Yeah. Boundaries is a really good book. If you struggle with this, I would recommend going through that, and remembering that your yes to one thing is a no to another thing. So if you're saying yes to more ministry, you're saying no to something else. That's important to remember.
Yeah.
No, I think we've had our fair share of calling people out, but there's one more, and I need your help, Hector.
I don't know, man.
Who do you think we should have on the podcast next?
God, who do you want on your podcast? Where do you want to be? What, you want to be in Minnesota? You want to be in South Dakota?
Vatican. We're thinking more Vatican. Like if you could hook us up with the Pope.
Who's up there right now that I know?
Who's the Pope? Is that what you just asked?
No, I know somebody at the NAC. I know somebody at the North American College. I'm trying to think of who I know.
Who is the Pope now? Even
who is that guy?
You guys should just randomly call a guy up there.
It'd be great if you got it in. If you could put a bug in Bishop DeGrood's ear, we'd love to have him on the podcast. Like, I know he's super busy and stuff, but when he speaks, lives change. I think a lot of what's going on at the diocese there, we want to share it. Like we're both have experienced the fruit of the Diocese of Sioux Falls, and we'd love to just have the opportunity to pick his brain.
Yeah, dude, send out an email to his assistant, and see if you guys can get that scheduled out like a couple months in advance. I don't have his ear. You probably have a better chance than me. Just the guy's busy, and we miss each other all the time. I would say this: if you want to talk about Catholic ministry professionals, there's 3 guys that come to my mind that are specifically like I just think are really good. So Bill Dill, the Archdiocese of St. Paul, Minneapolis guy. He runs youth and young adult ministry. I think he's killer. Dr. Chris Bergwald, he's my coworker. I look up to that guy so much. So he's been doing ministry in the Diocese of Sioux Falls. He's like one of the best hidden things in the Catholic Church today, in my opinion. And I hope he writes a book. And I would say the third person, I would say there's a guy named Pat Millay in the Archdiocese of St. Paul, Minneapolis as well. And then if you want to get some priests, I'll give you a couple priest names too. Father Peter Williams in the Archdiocese of St. Paul, Minneapolis. He's doing St. Ambrose, so he's crushing it out there. I would say out here, if you could get a hold of Father Andrew Dickinson, he's crushing it too with his ministry. And then if you could get Father Jordan Sampson, he's up in Aberdeen. Those 2 guys, I've grown to be really close with them. I know their heart. I mean, I think they do really, really good stuff too. So if you end up finding like you have a lot more priests that are listening to your podcast and need some of that stuff, that could be helpful.
Well, we definitely want our priest voices to be heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we pick on them enough. I think they need to come on to defend themselves a little bit.
Yeah, here's another thing. If you're a lay person and you're working in the church, like we gotta hold our priests accountable for their days off, man. Like that is so important. Because nobody else will, right? Nobody else is gonna. So you got to make sure that your guys are taking their day off and taking it well. So I just want to say that one time.
Amen.
We're gonna make that our calling card so that they think this is a really soft entry into like a nice fluffy podcast, and then we can get them on here and grill them.
Yeah,
you want to talk about burnout, man? Like those guys literally gave their life, and then sometimes they don't even get one day off a week. You know what I mean? Like they don't even get they have to be back in it. It's just crazy to me. Like we got to care for our priests.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of making live a life that's attractive, like if you want to do good ministry, if you want to like evangelize, when they are allowed to live a life that's attractive, they're allowed to have some time to rest, to have an actual Sabbath, you know,
Yeah.
and they can come in then and they're not grumpy or burnt out or stressed or strained because they've had that time with the Lord to be recharged. I mean, that's key to that. And
Yeah.
and they need it just as much as the lay professionals do. Amen. Amen.
100%.
Yeah, can you imagine the guys, the young men that are discerning priesthood, and all they see are old grumpy priests that work 23 hours out of the day, that have no lives, that have no real joy in outside of the ministry. Now I get, some priests really love that, but if you're discerning priesthood and you don't have a good example of, like, that's who I want to become, right?
Mm.
Obviously the cliche thing is I want to be like Jesus. I get that. But in a more real concrete way, I want to look and feel the way that Father, you know, insert your favorite priest's name. I want to feel that way because he is leading me to holiness. He wants me to be the best person that I can be to get to heaven for me and my family. I want that too. So I want to strive to be like that priest. Man, I can't agree with you more, Hector.
Jesus called his disciples away to rest after they did all that ministry. We cast out demons, we healed the sick, we preached your name, we ate food in people's houses, and he said, come away and rest. And I don't think they actually did rest if you keep reading on, but he still called them to rest, right? So, yeah, so key, dude. So key.
Well, this has been a great conversation. I think we could do like 10 hours of it, but I know there's boundaries. So, thank you for being on our podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, is there anywhere our listeners can go to connect with you or support your ministry?
Yeah, I have about 55,000 followers on Instagram right now.
Mm.
I'm joking. I don't have any social
Influencer.
media. I I do TikTok dances.
Just
I
by
got a
yourself. Huh?
Snapchat. I use the dog filter. I don't have any social media. I have a LinkedIn account and I barely check it. So yeah, but no, not really.
Nice.
Okay, but you're in the Diocese of Sioux Falls, so if people want to connect with you, reach out to the diocesan chancery office, and you can get in touch with Hector Bautista, pick his brain just like we did. So thank you for being on the podcast, and thank you, dear listeners, for listening to the Catholic Ministry Professionals podcast. If you want to transform your parish through your work, but you're not sure where to start, download our free parish health assessment at catholicministryprofessionals.com/free assessment. It's just 36 questions. It only takes about 5 minutes to fill out, and afterwards you'll have a color-coded picture of your parish's health that you can then use to fuel better conversations, prioritize better work, and become a better leader. You can email us at catholicminpros@gmail.com to share feedback or request a free consultation. And finally, don't forget to text this episode to a priest or a friend in ministry that could really benefit from it.
And with that, we'll see you in the vineyard.